AITA for sending $30,000 for my dad's wheelchair, only to find out my parents are water skiing? My name is Jacob. I'm 34 years old, and for as long as I can remember, I've been the financial backbone of my family. It all started when I was young. My father, Frank, was never good at managing money. He worked as a mechanic, but his paycheck would disappear on scratch-offs, beers with his buddies, or harebrained schemes that never went anywhere. My mother, Brenda, was a homemaker, but she always managed to spend more than they made. Tyler, my brother, is 5 years younger than me, and although he was always street smart, he never had any interest in working or going to college. He said he wanted to be an entrepreneur, but his plans always ended up as empty promises. When I turned 25, after years of saving every penny, I managed to buy a house. It wasn't a mansion, but it was mine, a modest 3-bedroom ranch with a small backyard and a kitchen that smelled like Sunday dinners. I thought it would be my refuge, a place to build my life, but my parents and Tyler had nowhere to live at the time. They had been evicted from their apartment due to unpaid rent. So, with a heavy heart, I told them to move in with me. It's temporary, I told myself, just until they get back on their feet. Years passed, and what was temporary became permanent. I paid for everything: the mortgage, utilities, internet, groceries. I even gave them cash for their personal expenses. Frank said he was looking for work, but there was always an excuse. The job market was tough, his age was a factor, his back was acting up. Brenda complained that she couldn't work because someone had to take care of the house. And Tyler, well, he spent his days in his room playing video games or posting selfies on Instagram, dreaming of being an influencer. Everything changed one day in October. I came home from my construction job exhausted, as usual, with aching feet and a pounding headache. I walked into the house and found my mother crying in the living room. Frank was on the sofa, ashen-faced, clutching his leg like it was killing him. Tyler was beside him with his phone in his hand, but with a serious expression I'd never seen on him. "Jacob, thank goodness you're home," my mother said, wiping her tears. "Your father is very sick." "What happened?" I asked, dropping my lunchbox on the floor and approaching them. "He fell down the basement stairs," Brenda explained, her voice trembling. "We went to the ER, and the doctor said he has a serious problem with his legs. He can't walk well, and if we don't treat it soon, it could get worse." Frank nodded, wincing in pain. "It's true, son, it hurts like hell. The doctor said I need to see a specialist, but there are no good ones around here. We have to go to a bigger city." I looked at my father. He looked weak, vulnerable. I had never seen him like this. He had always been a strong man, the kind who could change a truck tire without breaking a sweat. Seeing him on the sofa, his hands trembling, broke my heart. "What do you need?" I asked without hesitation. "I'll take care of it." Brenda looked at me with tear-filled eyes, but now they seemed to be tears of relief. "You're a lifesaver, Jacob. The doctor said the specialist is in Chicago, hours away. We're going to need money for the trip, appointments, tests. Everything is so expensive, but if we don't do it, your dad could lose his ability to walk." Tyler, who hadn't said anything until then, looked up from his phone. "Don't worry, bro. I'll handle all the arrangements. You just focus on the money." I nodded. There wasn't much to think about. He was my father, and if he was sick, I was going to do whatever was necessary to help him. "Go," I said. "I'll pay whatever needs to be paid. I'll handle everything." I didn't sleep well that night. I kept thinking about my dad, about how life changes in an instant, but I also felt a sense of calm because I knew I could help them. The next day, I dipped into my savings and gave them cash for the trip and the initial appointments. I told them to keep me in the loop on everything, that I would be waiting for updates. The following days were a whirlwind. My mother, my father, and Tyler went to Chicago. At first, they called me every day with updates. "The specialist said it's something with his nerves," Brenda would explain. "He needs special tests, and those are pricey." Other times it was Tyler. "Bro, the doctor recommended a new treatment, but it costs like $5,000. Can you wire it?" I worked overtime, asked for an advance at work, and even took out a small personal loan to cover the expenses. Every time they asked for money, I sent it without hesitation. I spoke to my mother almost every night, and she always sounded worried, on the verge of tears. "Your father isn't getting better, Jacob. This is very hard." I would console her, tell her everything was going to be okay, that I would keep working so they wouldn't lack anything. Weeks passed, then months. I spent thousands of dollars on treatments, medications, appointments. My savings account was almost empty, but I didn't care. It was for my dad. Every time I spoke with them, they told me Frank was the same, that the treatments were slow, that they needed more time, more money. I kept sending everything I could. Sometimes I felt exhausted, not just physically, but emotionally, but I couldn't give up. They were my family. Until the day came that changed everything. It was a Friday night. I was at home, alone, watching some sports recap on TV after a long day. My cell phone vibrated. It was my mother. I answered, but this time her voice sounded more desperate than ever. "Jacob, honey, please, we need your help. The doctor said your father is in very critical condition. He needs a special motorized wheelchair, one that's incredibly expensive. It's $30,000. Please, son, we have no one else to turn to." I froze. $30,000. It was more money than I'd ever held in my hands. My savings were already practically zero, and I had no way of getting that amount so quickly, but my mother's voice, broken by sobs, shattered me. I couldn't leave my dad without help. "Okay, Mom," I told her, trying to sound calm. "I'll get the money. Don't worry." I hung up and started to think. I did the math, checked my bank account, talked to a couple of buddies. In the end, I took out a high-interest loan from a lender I found online, sold my good set of tools, and scraped together the $30,000. It was a huge stretch, but I did it. I wired the money that same night to the account my mother gave me. I went to sleep with a mix of relief and worry. Relief because I knew my dad would have what he needed. Worry because I didn't know how I was going to pay off that debt, but I trusted it would all be worth it. The next day, Saturday, I woke up late. I had slept badly, with nightmares about bills piling up and crushing debt. I made myself some coffee and sat down to check my phone. I went on Instagram, more out of muscle memory than genuine interest, and that's when I saw it. My brother Tyler had uploaded a video to his stories. In the video, they were on a beach. The sun was shining, waves were crashing on the shore, and there, in the center of the scene, were my parents and Tyler, laughing as if they didn't have a single care in the world. My mother was sipping a cocktail with a little umbrella in it. Tyler was recording himself, striking poses for the camera, and my father, he was on a jet ski, riding the waves, moving his legs as if he'd never had a problem with them. I was paralyzed. I felt the air leave my lungs. I couldn't believe it. The man who, according to my mother, was so seriously ill that he needed a $30,000 wheelchair was there, bouncing over the water, laughing without a single grimace of pain. My hands trembled as I watched the video over and over. Then I checked Tyler's other posts. There were photos of them at a luxurious resort, with infinity pools and tables laden with expensive food. In one of the photos, I saw the resort's name on a sign, Caribbean Paradise. They were blowing the money I had sent them while I was at home, in debt, working myself to exhaustion. Rage burned inside me. But there was something else too, a deep sadness, as if a part of me had been torn away. My family, the people I had cared for my whole life, had lied to me, used me, and not only that, they were mocking me, living a life of luxury with my money while I was breaking my back. I couldn't stay still. I wasn't going to let this pass as if it were nothing. That same night, I searched for flights to Florida, figuring that's where a Caribbean Paradise resort would likely be. I found one leaving at 6 a.m. on Sunday. I bought it without a second thought. I was going to confront them. I was going to make them look me in the eyes and explain why they had done this to me. The flight was horrible. I didn't sleep. I didn't eat. I just thought about what I was going to say to them. The rage kept me awake, but there was also a part of me that didn't want to believe it was all true. Maybe there was an explanation. Maybe the video was old. Maybe my father had suddenly improved, like a miracle. But deep down, I knew that wasn't it. I knew they had deceived me. I landed around 9 a.m. The heat was suffocating, but I didn't care. I took a cab straight to the Caribbean Paradise Resort. It was an impressive place, with palm trees, fountains, and a sprawling white building that gleamed under the sun. I stayed outside, sitting on a bench near the entrance, waiting. I didn't want to go in and alert them. I wanted to see them come out. I wanted to catch them in the act. The sun beat down on my skin, but I didn't move. Finally, around 11 a.m., I saw them. There they were, the three of them, laughing, wearing sunglasses and beach attire. My mother wore a large sun hat, looking like a wealthy tourist. Tyler had a designer t-shirt that he had surely bought with my money. And my father was walking without any problem, with a smile I hadn't seen on his face in years. I ducked behind a palm tree so they wouldn't see me. I followed them with my eyes as they crossed the manicured lawn towards the beach. My mother settled into a lounge chair, took out some sunscreen, and started applying it. Tyler and my father joined a group of people playing volleyball on the sand. I saw my father jump, run, spike the ball with force. There was no pain in his movements, no weakness. He looked healthier than I felt. I couldn't hold back anymore. The rage pushed me forward. I walked to the volleyball court and stood beside it, arms crossed, staring at them. Tyler was the first to see me. His smile vanished, and his eyes went wide as dinner plates. My father was still playing, but suddenly he turned and saw me. In a second, his expression changed. He dropped to the ground, clutching his legs, groaning like every bone in his body was broken. "Oh, my leg. I can't move," he yelled, rolling in the sand. Tyler ran to him, putting on a show of concern. "Dad, easy. Don't move," he said, but his eyes were still fixed on me, nervously. My mother, who was a few feet away, heard the shouts and came running. When she saw me, her face turned pale. "Jacob, what are you doing here?" she asked, her voice trembling. I didn't say anything at first. I just looked at the three of them, trying to understand how they could have done this to me. Then, in the calmest voice I could manage, I spoke. "So this is what you do with my money," I said, pointing to my father who was still on the ground, faking it. "A $30,000 wheelchair, really? Look at you. Dad, you're more agile than I am." Frank tried to speak, but only stammers came out. "Son, it's not what you think." I felt better today. "Better?" I repeated, raising my voice. "Better. You're jumping around like you're trying out for the Olympics." People on the beach started looking at us. Some approached, curious. Tyler tried to intervene. "Bro, calm down. It's a misunderstanding. Dad had an improvement. It was like a miracle." "A miracle?" I cut him off. "And the $30,000? And the months you had me begging for money for treatments that never existed? Is that a miracle too?" My mother stepped between us with her hands raised, as if trying to calm me. "Jacob, please, don't make a scene. Let's go back to the hotel and talk calmly." "There's nothing to talk about," I said, feeling the rage burn my throat. "You've been using me all this time. While I was working myself to the bone, you were here living it up like royalty on my money." I took out my phone, called my bank, and right in front of them, I canceled the credit card I had given them for emergencies. I logged into my online banking and stopped the automatic bill pays I had set up for their phones. They looked at me with panic-filled eyes. "Jacob, don't do this," my mother pleaded. "We're your family." "You are not my family," I said, my voice breaking. "My family wouldn't deceive me like this. I don't want to see you ever again." I turned around and walked away, leaving their pleas behind. I didn't look back. I couldn't. If I had, I might have softened, and I didn't want to give in, not after what they had done to me. When I got back to my house, the first thing I did was call a locksmith and have the locks changed. I wasn't going to let them come back, walk in as if nothing had happened, and continue taking advantage of me. That night I sat on the sofa, alone, with a beer in my hand, trying to process everything. I felt empty, but also liberated. For the first time in years, I didn't have to worry about them. I didn't have to carry their weight. The following days were strange. My phone wouldn't stop ringing. Calls from my mother, texts from Tyler, even voicemails from my father begging for forgiveness. I didn't respond. I blocked their numbers one by one. I didn't want to hear their excuses. I didn't want to fall into their game again. 5 days later, I was at home when I heard noises at the door. Someone was trying the old key. I approached with a racing heart and threw the door open. There they were, the three of them, with suitcases, looking at the ground like scolded children. "Jacob, please," my mother said, her eyes red. "We made a mistake. Forgive us." "Son, I swear it won't happen again," my father added, looking up for the first time. His voice trembled, and his eyes were glassy, as if he were on the verge of tears, but there was something in his tone that didn't convince me, something rehearsed, as if he had already practiced those words on the way. "We messed up, Jacob. We were desperate. We weren't thinking clearly, but you're our son. You're everything to us." "Desperate?" I repeated with a bitter laugh I couldn't hold back. desperate to spend my money in a luxury resort, jet skiing. While I was killing myself working, my mother let out a sob and covered her mouth with her hand. It wasn't like that, Jacob, she said, shaking her head. We wanted to bring you joy, make you feel proud. We thought if your dad showed improvement, you'd feel better, but we were wrong. We know that. Please, let us in. Let's talk like a family. Like a family? My voice came out louder than I expected, and I noticed a neighbor walking their dog slow down to look. You don't know what it means to be a family. You used me. You lied to me. You laughed in my face while I was borrowing money to save Dad from an illness that never existed. Tyler, who hadn't said anything until then, took a step forward. His eyes were fixed on me, and for a second, I thought he was going to apologize, but what he said was worse. Bro, chill out, he said in a tone that tried to be conciliatory but sounded condescending. Yeah, we messed up, okay? But you can't just kick us out like this. We're your blood, Jacob. Where are we going to go? We have nothing. You've always taken care of us. Don't leave us on the street. That was like a stab in the back. The way he said it, as if I were obligated to keep carrying them, as if my whole life revolved around them. I felt the rage burn inside me, but I also felt pity. Pity for them, for myself, for everything I had believed we were. No, I said firmly, though inside I felt like I was breaking. I'm not going to be your ATM anymore. I'm not going to keep paying for your lies. Go away. I don't want you here. I don't want you in my life. My mother literally sank to her knees at the entrance of my house. The sun hat she was still clutching fell to the ground, and her hands clung to the doorframe. Jacob, for the love of God, she sobbed, her voice broken. You're my son, my little boy. Don't do this to us. We're your family. You can't abandon us. What are we going to do without you? My father approached, looking unsteady, and put a hand on my mother's shoulder. He tried to speak, but his voice broke. Son, I know I wasn't the best father. I know I failed you, but I promise we'll change. Give me a chance, please. We can't start over without you. No, I repeated, this time more forcefully. There are no more chances. It's over. I slammed the door shut with a final, sharp thud, without looking back. I leaned my back against the wood, breathing heavily as I listened to their voices on the other side. My mother kept crying, repeating my name as if it were a prayer. My father was gently knocking on the door, saying, Jacob, open up, please. I even heard Tyler mutter something, though I didn't understand what. Their voices blended into a chorus of pleas that drilled into my ears, but I didn't give in. After a few minutes, the noises died down. I heard the sound of suitcases being dragged along the sidewalk, footsteps slowly receding. I stayed there, against the door, until silence enveloped the house again. A few weeks later, I heard through the grapevine that my parents and Tyler had had to get jobs. My mom was cleaning houses. My dad got a job on an assembly line at a local plant. Tyler was driving for a rideshare service. Between the three of them, they were renting a small apartment in a rougher part of town. A part of me felt satisfaction. It was justice. After everything they had done to me, they were finally facing the music. But what came next left me dumbfounded. 2 months after the confrontation, I started receiving messages from my mother and Tyler. They said my father had had an accident at the plant, that a piece of machinery had malfunctioned and crushed his legs, that this time it was real, that he needed treatments, a wheelchair, help. They sent me photos of x-rays, medical reports, the whole 9 yards. They wanted me to believe them, to help them. I looked at the messages, the evidence, and it seemed real, but after what they did to me, I didn't want to have any relationship with them again. I blocked them again. I didn't respond. I didn't want to know anything more about them. Months have passed since then. I haven't spoken to my family again. I don't know where they are or what they're doing. Sometimes I wonder if I did the right thing, if I should have given them a chance, especially with my father's actual accident. But then I think about everything I went through, how I bent over backwards for them, and I know I made the right decision. For the first time in years, I feel like my life belongs to me. I paid off my debts. Little by little, I started saving again. My house is mine, truly mine, with no one depending on me. Sometimes the loneliness is heavy, but I'd rather be alone than surrounded by people who only use me. I'm free, and that's enough. If you liked it, don't forget to leave a comment